You've drawn probably the best drawing you've done to date. It's everything you hoped it would be and more. But then you think to yourself, this is going to look amazing when I add color, but you know you're lying to yourself. You have the image so vividly in your head, yet you know what will happen when you apply color. You'll begin sweating, panicking, not knowing which colors to use. You Google color schemes and find a load of unhelpful and confusing interior design posts and wonder how artists actually choose their colors. Is it guesswork? Was there a class you missed that every other artist took? The fact is, color is a piece of shit and I hate it because it's so confusing. But fear not. If you know virtually nothing about color, then this video will help you build a foundation so that you can begin to understand it a little better. Stick around until the end because I have 2 great recommendations for you to watch and read after this. We're going to start simply by looking at the color wheel and finish by creating our own color palette. So let's look at the wheel. If you Google image search a color wheel, you'll find something like this. They're pretty much all good, but try and look for the more simple wheels, like this one. Alternatively, you could go on my website and download a free color wheel for you to keep. The link to that bad boy is in the description. This next part might feel like nursery or kindergarten, but if you're like me, sometimes reminders like this actually help, even if we're too proud to admit it. Or maybe it's just me and I'm an idiot. Anyway, first are the primary colours, which are red, yellow and blue, which you definitely knew, and don't constantly get them confused with RGB. Next we've got the secondary colours, which are green, that you get from combining yellow and blue, orange, that you get from combining yellow and red, and purple, that you get from combining blue and red. Finally, we have the tertiary colours, which are yellow orange, red purple, blue green and yellow green. You won't win any prizes for guessing which colours combine to create those. So that's the colour wheel, and we've identified the colours. Hooray for us. But now we've actually got to figure out how to pair these colours together. Don't worry, we're going to look at 3 different options of how to do that, and then we'll make that colour palette. These are colour schemes, but are sometimes called colour harmony. They're basically the same thing. The first one is the complementary colour scheme. This is where you choose one colour, like blue, and then you look across to the opposite side of the colour wheel. The colour that you see is complementing the colour you chose. All colours that are opposite each other are complementing each other. The next scheme is the split complementary colour scheme. This is exactly the same, except you're not looking for a colour that is complementing the one you chose, you're looking for its neighbours. You find a complementing colour, like this orange, and you split it, taking a colour from the left and right. We now have blue, red orange and yellow orange as our colour scheme. The third scheme is the analogous. Nailed it. The third scheme is the analogous colour scheme. This is where you take a starting colour and you pick 2 or 3 colours next to it. So if you chose blue, you choose blue purple and purple. Or you choose blue, blue green and green, depending on which direction you wanted to go. As long as they're next to each other, it's fine. There are many more colour schemes for you to play with, like the triadic and the rectangle variations, but these 3 will give you enough anxiety as it is, so we'll leave it there. Also, I tend to forget what the colour schemes are called and what colours to pick relative to others, and it's just a hot mess. So keeping a video like this in your back pocket is a handy reminder for you. Oh yeah, that reminds me, subscribe. We have one more stop before we get to destination colour palette, which is language. Colourful language anyway. And I don't mean fuck, shit, cunt, wank, or fuck. I mean art speak. So get a pad ready and note these down. You'll be able to talk like an artist in the next 30 seconds. Warm colours are colours that evoke warmth. They're typically red, orange and yellow. Cool colours are green, blue and purple. Hue means colour. Saturation, intensity or chroma all refer to how much colour there is in the colour. Value is how much black or white is added to the colour to make it darker or lighter. A shade is a hue that has black added to it. A tint is a hue that has white added to it, and a tone is a hue with grey added to it. It's not hugely important for you to memorise all of these, but it helps if you're ever talking about colour with other art people, because then you'll know what the fuck they're talking about. But if your memory is bad, just remember warm colours, cool colours, value and saturation. Those 4 will get you by. So, back to temperature. Using warm and cool colours is a useful way of seeing lights and shadows in your painting. You can use warm colours for your lights and cool colours for your shadows, or vice versa. As a beginner, you'll probably want to start with warm colours for your lights because that makes a little more logical sense, and this is confusing enough as it is. Warm and cool are not exclusive to light and shadow, but by starting off this way it should provide a bit of logic so that you can mess around a lot more once you get more comfortable. And now we've finally made it, we're gonna make a colour palette. We're gonna use an analogous colour scheme because it's pretty simple and we're keeping things simple here. I'm going to pick red as my starting color, but you can pick whichever color takes your fancy. I'm also using Photoshop, but any digital software is fine, or actual paint. I'm starting with a red tone that has roughly 50% value, and we're going to create 4 additional color swatches to make up our palette. For the shadow swatches, I'm going to add shade to my red, and for the light swatches, I'm going to add tint. As I'm picking the next red, I'm moving the color down to darken it and making it a bit more saturated. What I'm also doing is moving the hue towards the purple. I'll do the same for the darker shadow, moving towards the purple a little more as well. Now for the lights, I'm starting from that red tone again, but moving the value up instead of down, making it lighter. I'm also pushing the hue towards the orange, and once more for the lightest swatch. If you wanted to reverse this by pushing the lights towards purple and the shadows towards orange, that's fine as well. Either way, we now have a color palette that we can build from. But what if we wanted to use a complementary color scheme? Well, we've got a palette sitting there waiting, so let's change a color to one that complements it. I'll change this one. Keep the value somewhere in between the colors either side and you're golden. One thing I forgot to mention about creating color palettes is desaturation. Generally speaking, you don't want too many saturated colors. Saturated colors are loud, and color harmony is like having a conversation. If you have too many loud colors, then you won't hear the other colors talk to each other. But you could have one loud color in the group. Thinking of saturation in terms of volume can help. If something feels off about your painting, try turning some colors down by introducing more gray and see if that helps. And with all of that, you should be able to make as many color schemes as you want or need. Once you get comfortable with it and start to internalize the logic, then branch out to the other weird color schemes available, and you'll no doubt be much better than me when it comes to color. Which admittedly isn't hard, but still. Now, 2 resources that I think are incredible have informed me the most on color theory, and it's a blog post by Art Rocket and Marco Bucci's YouTube channel. I put links to both in the description, and I recommend you check them out because they each know a lot more about color than I do. I would have started the video with them, but then you'd have no reason to stick around, and I'd just be sat here like a dick. I hope this video was useful to you and that you feel a tiny bit more comfortable using color in your next piece. I'd love it if you showed me, so tag your latest piece on Instagram @Brinkley and show me your palette too. Which sounded dirtier than I meant it. I've been Brinkley, have fun drawing, and I'll see you next week. Oh, you're still here. Well, I have some news to share. This weekend I'm at Shrewsbury's Comixolopia in the museum selling all of my art stuff, like arty books and comics. It's either going really, really well, or I'm questioning every decision I've ever made in my life. Not sure which. But you're going to find out exactly how it went next week, because I'm going to make a video about everything that I've learned from the good, the bad, and the ugly. So if you've ever considered going to a convention, then that video should be quite helpful for you. Either way, I hope it's a good one. For my sake. Anyway, I'll see you next week.